Welcome to call 14, penultimate call of the book club. Um, the next couple of weeks, let's let's use the system of this book club for whatever you need it for at the moment. So to next week will be. I'll design it as a bit more of a reflection call. Bit of, well, bookend, kind of a reflection, but also how do you take this stuff forward and keep playing with it. For today, there's an exercise I've got in mind. I really liked the frog's eyes stuff, and particularly the stuff around frogs' eyes are specialised to see in a certain way, and there's a whole deep topic we can get into there. So there's an event versus interpretation exercise that I want to play with, which some of you may be familiar with, and I think there's a couple of you I've done this with before. So we'll get into that. It's always fun to remind ourselves of that and pick it apart. And for those of you who haven't done that before, it's when I first discovered it, it kind of ended up being a bit of an ace up the sleeve that can be deployed in certain situations, and it's awesome. So yeah, just before we started off, there was already a theme buzzing and emerging in our pre-call conversation. So I'd love to open the call up with a check-in. I want to hear your news. I want to hear your noticings, your reflections, perhaps some insights from the chapters, some updates on the practice of your systems. Yeah, I'd love to hear what's occurring, what's happening, what's being created, what challenges are being faced, a direction that you want to bring for yourself for the call that would be useful to you. Tracy.
For me, I have really noticed that the busier I get, the less present I am and the less my systems work. That seems to be from whatever corner that might come from in any shape or form, be it family, work, and also my own expectations of what I'm capable of as well. Um, can get me into a situation where I'm really struggling to keep those systems implemented and return to them because too much is happening. So my brain's going into that fast loop. So therefore, I'm not focusing on going back to the systems. I'm just surviving again. And that's what I didn't want when I first started out with the book club. I thought, great, this is going to keep me back from that happening. And with Christmas looming and lots of family things happening that are unavoidable to a certain extent, I'm finding I'm getting into this faster and faster loop, which I was hoping the system would help me prevent that. But actually, I found out that it's not embedded enough for me to rely on it. So I really need to think about how I can make that a habit that is automatic rather than having to notice and think about it every time because it's not until I'm in that full circle of pelt of quick thinking that I suddenly go, hang on, we've gone back to that default setting I don't want to be in. And it's usually quite far in before I notice, rather than noticing that it's starting to happen. And that's because things are coming at me from different directions. And I was hoping at the beginning of the book club, I had this expectation, we talk about expectations, that actually it would prevent that from happening. And it hasn't. And I think that's probably down to my expectations and the way I was looking at the system. But I really would like to try and find a way within going forward, really, to try and stop me going into that fast overloop and stepping back. Because I know all about don't say anything for 48 hours, don't agree to anything for 48 hours. I know that it needs to go in my diary as soon as I finished a call. But actually, when you've got the phone ringing, people distracting you, it doesn't always happen. And I'm finding I'm getting into, I think it's this time of year as well, because for me, it's a busy time of the year. and there's things going on at home with my mum is looking at a nursing home for my dad, so she's calling on me every so often to go and look, and they're an hour away, so that's a 3 hour round trip for me. So there's all this is really dragging me away from the systems I'm trying to implement, so help.
Hmm. Awesome. Awesome. So I I I get busy, and then I fall out of habit with the systems. They I don't plug into them. And I'm hearing like that kind of busyness is happening in two dimensions. It sounds like there's a like in form physical reality to the busyness, like long drives, you've got to be in multiple places, right, got to get back to this place, right now got to jump on a call with this person. There's a physical dimension to it, and it sounds like there's an internal speed as well that's accompanying this. Like I've heard you talk about sort of racing thoughts. So it sounds to me like there's sort of a distinction. There's two different planes where this experience is playing out. I'm quite intrigued. Just to feed back to you what I heard you say, and jump in and correct me, or clarify or anything. I've heard you talk about preventing, but I heard you talk about returning to, and I'm seeing that there's possibly two different things there. There's like the prevention of like, which in itself carries kind of a, what's the term I'm looking for? There's kind of like an implicit vibe of like this thing is bad, therefore must prevent this thing. In the same way we talk about prevention with illness, it's like there's kind of always an implicit vibe of like this is a bad thing, must be avoided, must prevent. And then I'm hearing you talking about returning to, which sounds like there's perhaps more of a vibe of like when this happens, and I accept that this will happen. How do I return to? How do I recommit to? So I don't have any specific answers, but I found hearing those things quite interesting, and I want to feed that back to you.
Yeah, I think it's because I noticed the calm at the beginning of the book club when I was implementing the systems and I had the time and the space to do it, that now everything's gone a bit mad. It's almost fallen by the wayside a bit. And I notice I need to return to that, but it's not always possible. And then I get cross and then I get a little bit frustrated and I think that's silly because you know what you could be doing, you know what you could choose to do if you were aware sooner it's happening. But I like the fact you've picked up I could return to it. I didn't hear myself saying that it's always possible to go back to those systems. But I don't I'm aware now that it's mentally it's not a good thing for me to go into this fast thinking. So that's how I see it, as good and bad, because for me going into that fast thinking means I'm going to miss things, I'm going to not be present, and I'm not going to feel um well like I do when the systems are implemented. So I've definitely noticed the difference in those two things, which is why I think I get cross and frustrated when I'm not in the systems, because I know that's where I want to be. And it's finding for me a system that will remind me that I can go back to those systems and I don't have to slip down that rabbit hole if
Mm,
I don't choose to. Is that making I don't know if that's making is that making sense?
mm, mm,
Don't know if that's making sense or not really.
mm. No, I think so. What I'm hearing, and can absolutely relate to, like, one of the most frustrating feelings to carry, I think, is one where we know what we want to be doing,
Yeah.
and sometimes there are physical barriers to it. Sometimes it's a time and attention thing. There are more urgent, pressing things that come up that do require attention immediately, and that thing that we really want to be doing isn't really on the list there. Like that looks like a truth to me. That looks like a reality of playing the game of life. That's going to happen. So I definitely hear and relate to the feeling that we can get in when we're faced with that. And so I think like instinctively the thing that is coming up for me is around systems of returning to, and before that it's a noticing. Like I've heard you talk about the moment you notice, like I'm in this, I'm in that space, I'm in that sped up place, I'm going fast. What happens after that?
I notice, I get cross with myself, then I check my language, and then I think, how can I return to where I want to go to? But then usually something else at the moment comes up, and I don't get that chance to reflect. Because back in the summer, when I was able to go on holiday for a week and really think about what the systems were teaching me, I was able to look at ways to come back. But at the moment, I don't feel I can breathe to look at coming back. And that could well actually, it's yeah, it's probably a lot to do with my expectations of what's expected of me, thinking about it. I feel I have to be somewhere because my expectation is I will let somebody else down if I'm not there. So I think that might be playing, actually, yeah, that's probably playing into it quite a bit. The expectations of me from maybe other family members or from my work that I do could possibly be playing into that. And I'm thinking they expect it when actually they're not. Because I know for me, for the part from past conversations I've had with you, it's been about expectations I've had about me and not necessarily what other people's expectations of me are. And that
Mm.
could be, particularly when I'm getting stressed, that could be coming into play, thinking about it, particularly with family, because I do have a lot of expectations on myself to support in that way. So that actually that could be playing quite a bit into what's going on here, thinking about it.
Okay.
Thank you, Will.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. This came up on last. Were you on last week's call? Remind me.
No, I wasn't able to come, and I missed the exercise at the end because the exercise wasn't on the recording at the
Oh,
end. So I was going to ask you for that.
right. Cool. Okay. Yeah, we did have. I had a technical glitch, and we lost that bit. But let me make a note of that. Um, I will get that exercise over to you, and expectations and agreements came up last week, and I've got some resources
Okay.
on that stuff. So if you're happy for me to, after this, I'll send you a voice note and I'll send an email with some bits. There's a whole game that can be played, and a co-creation to be made when it comes to agreements in the place of expectations. And if that's an area that you've not looked deeply into, or really like brought into your world in a very practical way yet, my sense is that there could be something really useful there. Awesome.
That would be amazing. Thank you, Will. That'd be great.
No worries. Yeah, I'll make a note of that. Is there any more you want to share for now?
No, really, it was just this whirlwind I'm in at the minute, really. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Sam.
Hello. Um, yeah, I just wanted to sort of share. I've been trying to pinpoint like the feeling, and not even the feeling of like it's almost like mourning old systems. So like the last week or so, I've been sort of trying to implement old systems or implement systems that have recently, I've noticed, like through these calls in the book, etc., that haven't been working. So then being like, well, what's like the new system? How can I change it, update it, or whatever that is? And then noticing that the new system is working, but then almost still trying to like hold on to the old system for some reason, and not just like, I don't know if I'm still maybe like holding on to that, because it, like with systems as like a, taking like self out of an equation, and I never like with these calls, I've never sort of thought like, oh, like I'm this way or I'm that way, or like I'm a failure because I can't go to the gym or whatever it is. But for some reason, even though I've got a system that now works, I'm still sort of like trying to make other systems work, even though they now don't need to. So, but yeah, I just noticed it in a couple of systems. One is like an easy one. It's like the gym. I was like, I don't want to go at 5 o'clock in the morning. So then now I go at 4:30 in the afternoon. But yeah, I still some evenings set an alarm with the anticipation, like putting a system in place that I know recently hasn't worked, but then it has been a very successful system in the past. So then sort of, I guess, looking too much into the why of why an old system is not now working, even though I feel like I've got a system that's like replaced it. But like, I don't know, maybe I don't know, maybe it's a habit, or but I've just noticed it with a couple of different um systems in the last like week or so. Um and sort of try, yeah, can't like, I don't know what it is. I almost like can't relax into the new system and like be, I don't know, just like comfortable in the new system, even though it's like an improvement on an old system that once worked but then now doesn't work. Does that make sense?
What would you like to have happen? What would you like to experience?
Just be content that the new systems work.
Right.
Do you
Okay.
know what I mean? Rather than trying, but I can't. Yeah, for some reason, finding it difficult to let go of old systems, even though when the old system wasn't working, sort of didn't have that like reaction of like, oh well, I'm a lazy person because I'm not in the gym by 5:30 in the morning, as an example. But yeah, now that I've found a system that works, I've sort of like, I'm like sort of, yeah, trying to make the old system work, whereas before I was just like, nah, I just don't do that anymore.
Okay. So what does trying to make the old system work look like in this gym example?
In the gym example, I'll go to bed. Like when I get into bed, like old system, get into bed, gym kit's laid out, set the alarm for 5 o'clock, and the alarm goes off, get out of bed, put the gym stuff on, get in the car and get to the gym. And but now it looks like laying the gym stuff out, setting the alarm for 5 o'clock. And then yeah, maybe it's just a habit. And but now I snooze it and I'm just, yeah, just don't. Whereas like before the new system was in play, yeah, I don't know. It's almost like the introduction of a new system is like create like almost. I'm not. I don't want to say created. Um, Confusion, but it's like, but before there was like a weird level of acceptance that the system wasn't working, and I was like, there we go, that doesn't matter. But now, yeah, now there's a new one in place. I'm like, oh, yeah. But it's, yeah, it's just been with a couple of things, and it's just, I mean, maybe it is just a case of this old habits and like, stop doing the things that don't serve you anymore type situation. Um, but yeah, I just found it interesting in my like sort of day to day when I just noticed that like I'd still use old systems when I've got new ones for certain things.
Okay. Okay. Just to check under a couple of stones. There might
Yeah.
be nothing in it, but I'll chuck a couple of things up at the wall and see what sticks. Um, with the gym example, do you miss going to the gym at 5 a.m.?
Yeah, I think there is an element of it that I do. Um, yeah, because it's quite like, in that example, it's quieter. It's like it sort of like sets me up for the day. I feel like I do more because I'm like haven't I'm not like tired from like like the day that's already gone. It's like the first thing I do. So yeah, maybe there is an element of that going on.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like um from where I'm sitting listening to this, it we can sometimes even unconsciously look at these things as like it's a problem that needs to be fixed or something that needs to be ironed out when purely
Mm.
sometimes it's just a bit of feedback. I'm wondering if there's a part of you that perhaps enjoyed going to the gym at 5 a.m. Um, I'm wondering as well if there is space for flexibility in systems. So I think that systems without noticing become very, very rigid. So, like, what works for us one week or even one day might not quite work the next. Like, it could be that we go through a week of we're in flow, everything is happening, everything feels easy. And it's really exciting to be a human having that experience. It's really, really cool. And sometimes in that instance, like getting up and going to the gym at 5 a.m. is incredible. It's like, yes, smashing this. That's really exciting. Other times waking up at 5 a.m. in the winter, the experience of that is very, very different. We're in an ebb, we're tired, perhaps we've been working long hours. It's okay, right, that system isn't working anymore. So I'm wondering if there's something around noticing what wants to happen and accounting for even those random occasions where it might even be a one-off. We just really want to do something. It just
Yeah.
makes sense. It's like, okay, let's do it.
I think there's been quite a lot of, I'm wondering, like, thinking about the missing thing about missing going to the gym at 5 o'clock, like with the other systems, like sort of like to do with like work and relationships and stuff. It's there's been quite a lot of system changes in like like a lot of areas recently. So I'm now wondering if it's just whether it's solely. I mean, I know I've talked about like the gym thing as an example, um, but actually thinking about all of the systems, whether actually if like collectively, because all of a sudden like the gym thing almost like seemed quite like menial. but whereas like it's just a big adjustment to like a lot of systems changing. But yeah, definitely. But yeah, that sort of opened up an area of thinking that I hadn't thought about before. So actually, quite helpful to share. If it made, I'm glad it made some sort of sense.
Awesome. Um, out of curiosity, what is that area of thinking that you hadn't thought about? Like, what's opened up for you there?
Just not giving myself enough sort of uh I want to say credit, but that sounds really stupid. But not giving myself enough sort of like space to allow myself to adjust. I think because everything's gone from like quite fast paced, and quite a lot of like yeah, I've got a lot of time. I've got more time than usual to sort of like think. I feel bad. I feel like I've got the opposite of like everyone else. Everyone's like coping with like everything's busying up to Christmas, whereas like the last couple of months for me is like really sort of slowed down, and yeah, it's been quite a big adjustment. So just that sort of like noticing that that is what is happening, and that there has been a lot of change, and just sort of giving myself credit sounds really stupid, but like, do you know what I mean? Sort of like allowing myself like the adjustment period, and actually, there have been a lot of changes recently, and a lot of system change. Um, so being like it is okay. Do you know what I mean? For me to miss things that used to happen and that I used to do, like the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, because now life is very different to how it was 3 months ago. Um, so yeah, just sort of thinking more on like a bigger scale rather than like honing in on like why, sort of like looking at the systems and like, sort of like, but then stepping back and looking at them all, and just sort of like being a bit more observant of the bigger picture, I guess.
Mm. Mm. You that has been a really big change from when we first met a few months ago to now. The pace has shifted, and like what you
Mm.
just pointed to there, um, the level to which we give ourselves permission to contextualize ourselves, to look at the bigger picture, to receive what it looks to me like you're allowing yourself to receive there. It's like, well, maybe there's some credit to be given here. Whatever phrase we want to use, cut ourselves a break, cut some slack, whatever it looks like. I think that's often the difference between like what mode of difficulty do we want to play the game of life at. So like hypercritical of self is like playing life on death mode. It's like everything is a loss. Like it's horrible to play life with that thing. And then easy mode is kind of this version where it's like, well, how much can I celebrate and receive and notice the smallest of things in my life, however menial they may seem. I don't know, a croissant, like, or something. So like just the smallest things. Like I kind of I'm coming to view that as like there's a choice there as to which, like, how difficult do we want to experience the game of life. And so from my perspective, that's what I'm seeing you play with there, is like, well, hang on, is there maybe some credit due here and some
Yeah, I
contextualizing?
think there's just thinking about like listening to what you said there. I think there's but not enough credit due, but also there's a weird guilt that's surrounding it as well. Like yesterday, I had time to do DIY. Do you know what I mean? And I was just like, this has been something I've wanted to do for so long. An opportunity presented itself, and then like there was a weird like I don't know. It is like a weird guilt that I don't have to get up and do the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I had time. I because I think I described to you before, for those of you not part of my other sessions with Will, I like a bit of a speedboat, like physically and mentally. So yeah, there's definitely a weird like layer of guilt that I'm now not quite that bad, which I think has to do with this weird like sort of missing old systems thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
But anyways, that was my 2 pence.
Hmm. Can I? Are you happy for me to send you a DM after this with a couple of questions that I think
Yeah.
I get the sense might be useful to you right now?
For sure.
Awesome. All right. Is there any more you want to share?
No. Please, somebody else speak. Good grief.
No,
Thanks, Will.
thank you, Sash.
Hello. It's just like following on from last week, really. Just I think last week I was speaking about the difference of like knowing the instinctual thing that I wanted to do versus like the telling like the story that I told myself, and kind of sometimes getting confused with which one's which. Um, and just following on with that, I think I'm starting to really notice that I have this like pattern with like ebb and flow moving between the two, and how I set myself up when everything's like feeling really good, and then I go into like a down time, and because I've been feeling really positive and good, I then fill up this time, and then I go into downtime like mentally and physically, and then I'm like, oh no, I've got too much going on, and then find it difficult to like balance when I'm gonna be switching between the two. Um, and so I took some time off, and I kind of reset myself, and then I had a film that kind of just dropped in my lap, and um I was going through this kind of process in my head of trying to work out what was the instinctual feeling, like the yes or no to take the job versus kind of what the story was. And I was kind of telling myself this story of like, oh, you're not going to have enough time to get it done. This isn't the kind of music that you like write and things like that. But I knew that internally, from the moment that I saw the film on Instagram, I was like, I love this film. Like, there's something about this film that I want to be a part of. Um, so it's kind of like the battle between of like just, oh, this is such a fun, cool project versus like stuff that is logical, like explanations why not to do something. Like kind of, oh, you don't have a lot of time, you're going to be taking December like off to wind down a bit before your next project in January. Um, the kind of idea of like the kind of music overall that I want to be edging into, this wasn't really like fully aligned. But I said yes to it, and I now am doing a 20-minute film within like 2.5 weeks, with Christmas and New Year's. But there's a part of me that's like, I've been loving every second of doing it, and I'm really enjoying the process. But I also know that that kind of downtime physically and mentally is going to kind of hit me at some point. And I know I'm going to go, oh, I can't think creatively. I'm going to struggle to like write in the same way. I definitely go through like, I'll have like a week where just everything comes really quickly. And then all of a sudden, it tends to work actually in line with my hormones. I'll have like a week where I'm really creative, everything's moving very perfectly, it comes out quickly. to like a week that's very social and out and about, and then 2 weeks where I actually like, if I'm trying to create anything new, it's actually a bit of a slug, and I really like struggle to get things done. um and I've kind of had a week where it's been really quick, and I think just my brain's going, oh god, I'm gonna hit like the second half of December and hit that slug with a very tight deadline. But at the same time, like instinctually, I'm like, I'm loving the project. So there's a lot of like conflict still happening. Um, because the filmmakers are amazing. Like we've been laughing back and forth, like we've been meeting up on like video calls and like really getting into it. And it's been such a collaborative project. The film itself is like an amazing film. Um, so yeah, there's just, I think what I'm noticing more and more is that I guess that conflict has kind of been with me a lot, probably like more than I've realized for a very long time, of that the stories can sometimes be quite logical and they do kind of make sense, and sometimes it also switches. Like before, the logical story was your body's really exhausted and you need to take a break, and I did kind of listen to that. And I think it's sometimes instinctual logic and sometimes instinctual not logic, if that makes sense. And yeah, trying to know what to listen to has been a bit like, I don't know.
And before we go any further, the fact that you're bringing out all of that, it is a sign that you're playing with something, and you're playing with something huge as well. Like that power of now, like the knower versus the thinker, deep inner wisdom and guidance and instinct versus intellect, mind, logic. Like this is no small stuff to be
Yeah.
fucking with. Like this is awesome stuff. And of course, like we can, and I'm not saying that you are, but it is possible when we play with this stuff to accidentally or innocently create an either or like a wisdom is always the good one, like instinct and internal guidance, and the mind is that's where thoughts happen, and those are weird, and all that stuff. And of course, it's like both are all of us. Like we cannot function or live. It's just the system of the human to be built with both of these things, and both have their place. Like it sounds to me like that logical, that thinking around like you are not going to have time. Like that's protective thinking. It's there's a really useful purpose to that thing. The extreme ends of that, and always turning to that for the answer, probably becomes crippling fear, probably becomes freezing in place, and like, do you know what I mean? It's I to be honest, I don't know what it is because I'm still playing with it. But what it looks like is to keep showing up at the game and keep noticing and playing with it and looking at it and learning from it. So I'm curious, like, how's the experience of working on this film? Because I'm also hearing and feeling an energy when you've talked about it of just like, yes, love the people, love the film. There's just something. I think you said like there's just something about it that's captured you. Like, how's your experience of doing the work?
Yeah, like I've really really enjoyed the process. um I mean, right from the start when I first saw it, like there was something, yeah, something about the film, the like the just like the story of it, the way that it was shot, the color grading, everything. Just I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like you could tell, like there was something about it that's gonna one do well as well, and be recognized. But also, like I think the main thing was that you can tell that there was a lot of like pride that was put into it in the first place. And I think that's a really big thing that I've been carrying with me this week is that with the filmmakers, I'm sitting down with them frequently and they're getting involved and they're like, oh no, I don't want this note, shift it here. And you don't normally get filmmakers that want to be that involved. And it's been really like amazing to be that collaborative because they've got so much pride for their film. Like they're like, no, this is how we want it, which is great. And it's been a lot of fun. It's not like a film that usually I would think that would be like, if I was thinking career wise, like, oh, what kind of films I should be working on, it wouldn't fall into that category. But the actual experience of it has been like, I'm really glad that I've taken it because originally I was thinking, oh, well, I'm not going to, like, that doesn't make sense to take this film. But ultimately, of the actual experience and the process, I've been really glad that I have. I think something that I'm trying to, I guess, one, not put too much pressure on myself, but also kind of an acceptance is that if I am going into that downtime physically and mentally, is that being okay with the whatever music that I write, that it's not like the best that I've ever done, and kind of get more looking into it as it's a job. It's okay. Like if I'm in that downtime and things aren't coming as quickly, that difference between you could write something and improvise it and be like, okay, cool, that's done. I didn't have to think twice about that versus sitting there for hours on end and really struggling to even come up with a chord progression. I know that downtime's going to come, but with tight deadlines because of festival dates and things like that, I don't ultimately have much choice around when that kind of happens. You have to get it done by the date. So I'm trying to just, be okay and do what I can when I'm in that zone that things do come quickly, and try to have some acceptance in the times that it does take long. And even if I'm not like, I don't want to say fully proud of what I've done, but it doesn't always have to be your best work. Like that's okay to kind of just allow it to be, I guess, like a product that sits under a film, like allow it to just to be what it needs to be for the film. And it doesn't have to be anything about me as a person or a musician being like, oh, my music has to be the best. Every film we do has to be the best music I've ever done. And yeah, but there is an overlooming kind of dread sometimes of going into that downtime physically where I'm like, what if I can't meet the deadline? Like, what if it just doesn't happen?
Just making some notes. It's so interesting, isn't it, that the kind of the medium that we are for channeling something that just comes through us sometimes so effortlessly, so seamlessly, so with no friction, and inevitably, because we're human, we all do it, and there will always be. And this, of course, is just what looks true to me, an inescapable creation of friction when our ego inevitably gets cut up with whatever we're creating, and that's when it becomes like, I have to be the best. Like we enter the sort of, like, we bring our personal thinking into it, and again, it's there seems to be kind of an ebb and flow with that as well. It's almost unpredictable. It's just that I kind of got the sense of that unpredictability when you were talking about how you schedule things and plan things. Like, well, I don't know when I'm going to be ebbing and when I'm going to be flowing, that really resonates with me. It's like sometimes I'll plan things for the start of a week, like today. And I got to today, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, why have I booked the dentist at 8 a.m.? Like, what? I don't want to be up that early. So I hear that.
Yeah, we had because I got stuff over very quickly this week, and they sent me a GIF of the little boy from Incredibles that runs really fast. And they were like, "You should put this in your studio," like him, like little running really quickly. And I was like, "Oh, just you wait in like 2 weeks' time, or like when I go into like, okay, I need a break now." So yeah, there is like a pressure of you have to keep performing at that like level consistently
Hmm.
for the filmmaker as well.
Hmm. Hmm. A few things are actually I can feel my mind speeding up with there's a lot coming up. So I'll slow down. I'll go through some bits. First off, there's a really cool system. Um, what's her name? Is it Kate? Kate Cameron wrote a book called The Artist's Way, and in it she talks about morning pages, which is a practice of. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of it. Yeah, you just like stream of unconscious thought, right? And you just like write out whatever happened, or like
It's effectively what the way she describes it, and actually I took photos of the chapter so I could send you the chapter where she talks about using this system and how to play with it. Um, there is something about sitting down to do an act that is ultimately creative, with absolutely no expectation, no agenda, no end result, no goal, no requirement for it to be anything. And it's a way of practicing. And bear in mind, like I haven't played with this yet, so like I can speak about it to a certain extent. It's something I definitely want to play with, but from what I've heard, the loosening that can happen around the creative act, or like the way that we relate with the creative act, can significantly transform by practicing every day, every morning, something that we, a way of being, how we show up to the creative act. It's like, yeah, fine. Like, no expectation. And of course, I hear that professional edge, that kind of, right, it's got to be at a level. And I think maybe if I speak from sort of musician to musician on this level, like maybe less of a coachy kind of thing, but um, that ebb and flow with live performance, for example, you see it gig to gig. It's like some gigs, I don't even know where the phrases are coming from. It's just effortless. It's just coming out. And other gigs, you're digging really, really deep. You often watch footage back from those gigs, and it's still at a level that's fine. It's just that there's a way that we're experiencing it, and I think that there's always something to notice there. It's like how am I experiencing this thing versus what actually is this thing? And usually even like 65-70% of what we're capable of is usually more than good enough. And the rest is our internal very subjective experience of that thing.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I definitely need to play with it a bit more. And yeah, I'll have a look into that if you can send it to me. Well,
I will do. And I've heard again. This is my Christmas present that I've asked for: The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. I don't know if you've read that, but again, I've just heard incredible things from so many musicians now that I'm like, right. My sense is that there's enormous visionary level wisdom from this guy about the creative process and making music. So could be cool. Is there any more, Sash?
no.
Awesome. Thank you. Karen.
Hello, everyone. Well, I sort of, can identify with everybody, and yet I've got a completely different. Um, what I've noticed, because I have like really busy times, and just recently I've had some enforced quieter times, and then I had systems that were working really, really well because I was actually thinking about systems. And then things get really busy and then a bit, like Tracy, like, oh shit, I didn't get that done, didn't get that done. Oops. And then I've had some enforced quieter times, and I've decided, well, I've discovered that I've got new systems, a new system of being as opposed to of doing. And um, my systems, I've got different systems, and sometimes they work and sometimes they work less well in different situations. So I'm just thinking, all right, so I need a different situation for a different system for when I'm busy or when I'm less busy, or so I'm not thinking, oh, it's failed, it's failed. I'm just thinking like, oh, right, okay, so that system's not working now, but there's all these other things. And what I'm not doing is blaming either myself or the system. I've been just, all I can explain it is like dancing with life, like when they've said before. So I've been trying to put it into words as I was listening to everybody, and it's almost like I've got a system now of it sounds so shit. I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but like of getting myself out of the way because there's a lot of thinking and bollocks and it doesn't get anyone anywhere. Like it's just wasting time beating yourself up. Of just, oh, I wasn't meant to do that today. Obviously, fine. I will go with whatever. And as a result, I've got more done in the last 2 weeks than I did when I had my regimented system of I will do, I'll do it like that. So, um, yeah, there's some kind of wisdom or guidance, and it could be the same energy that's dunking music into our brains and flowing through us. But I've just stopped. My new system is not beating myself up and not like thinking that I'm shit about stuff and just going with what comes up. And because I've not got anything to then rebel against, I'm finding it just really easy to do stuff. And the bits where I haven't been able to do stuff, it's almost like that was a blessing as well because it's given me some mental space. And when I can start doing that again, I know what I'm doing and it's going to be easier because I came to a bit of an impasse. And so, oh, I'm just a bit rambly now, aren't I? But anyway, my new system is to just be a bit more flexible and to stop beating myself up and not make anything about me. And so far, I've got more done with less planning and a lot less thinking. And I've stuck some fun in and friends in and all of that I wanted to. So,
Hmm. Right, I love this, and I have some questions, um, because I want to know. So I played around with this after the creative retreat that Nick and Bloom ran earlier this year, um, and I've usually been very regimented, always looking for the organisational systems, and this was one of the things I wanted to bring today as a reflection on my systems. Often it all just falls apart because there's a headache-ness to it. I'm like, God damn, there's something in this that there's a certain feeling of cagedness that comes with it that time and time again I create that kind of like this fortress of systems, and I look at it and rationally go, I'll never miss any of this. Like I have constructed this so fucking well. Like I'm gonna get everything done, super productive, blah blah blah. It doesn't take very long before there's like a resentment. There's an energy with it. There's a feeling of just like I hate this. Like I don't like this thing. And so with the creative retreat, one of the like bold experiments that Bloom had me do was just like, how far out the window could you throw all of that and just, I don't know, in the space just create and just see what happens. And the first 2 days after I got off the retreat, I couldn't believe how much I got done in 2 days without a to-do list, without directives, without planning. It was just a bunch of things made sense to do. And I had a direction after the retreat, so there was that. But in moving in that direction, I didn't need every single step laid out. It's just like, oh, I'll do this thing. You get a reply. Well, I'll reply back. And then, oh, right, now a thing's being created with this. Okay, we'll see where this goes, etc. So I suppose my question to you is like that's what I'm hearing in what you're sharing, and my sense is that resonates with you as well. Um, is there a degree of trust that you have
Yeah,
in that?
I think so.
Hmm.
I think so. Because, like, whenever I look, I've been looking back in hindsight, I'm really glad that certain things happen. Oh, I'm really glad I slipped a disc. Well, hey, that was useful. No, because it gave me the space that I needed to. It did all kinds of, like there is a there is. I do feel like there is something coming through me, like, and I've had that thing writing music. I don't write it anymore, but what it was either a total slog, and it ended up to be rubbish, and then that was all about me, or it just came flying through me, and then I knew it was nothing to do with me. Um, and I think that we can just put our finger in the spokes of the wheels a bit too much. And if I over prescribe my life, I've then start feeling, yeah, like a bit constricted, and then I start rebelling against it because I am rebellious. And I know what needs to be done. I don't need a to-do list. There's a few things that I forget, object permanence, and I have to put them down. But I do know what needs to be done. And I'm sort of like trusting that they'll get done in the order that they need to be done in. And if something unexpected comes along, then it won't break anything. I'll just have a bit of a rejig. And sometimes it means that some of the stuff never needed to be done anyway. So there is this kind of, yeah, like a dancing with life. And it's almost like it's not even a constant noticing. Obviously this is temporary. Tomorrow might be the complete opposite. So, um, but just a lack of wasting my time thinking about shit,
Mm.
and just a lot of doing and feeling very light. And as a result, just getting loads of done, and then feeling so good about doing stuff effortlessly
Mm.
without any shoulds on it, that I just find myself, oh, I'll just do this, I'll just do that.
Mm.
So not only did I do my tax return in record time, a day quicker than last year, but I've already got the next year completely up to date because I just did. I didn't plan on doing that. I just did it. So that's really nice. Just stupid things. I'm not explaining it very well because it's really difficult to explain a feeling, isn't it? But
Mm.
there's just not a lot of beating myself up. And there's some I suppose I've built in a system of being flexible.
Mm. Mm. There's something in all of this I'm hearing. It again, trust keeps coming up, or like a letting go, an allowing, a surrendering.
Yeah.
Um, a dance with life is this is making a lot of sense to me, and I'm really tuned in to where you're at, because I think right now you're holding quite a powerful mirror up to me with what the last few weeks have been, with like slipping perhaps further into right, the answer is I've got to get a grip on certain situations. So get a grip. It's just like, right, I've got to get this thing under control. I've got to contain this part of my life. Or like we were talking about it last week with like, right, I need some regularity, like a day of teaching in a school, or like, but in balancing and organizing these things, the tighter I grip, the more uncomfortable and the more friction there is, and the more unease. Like there's just an uneasy feeling. Whereas like the feeling that you're describing, where it's just really fun to move through actions in your day as and when things occur. Which actually, when we describe it like that, it's a very natural way of existing, right? There was a time where humanity didn't have to-do lists and didn't have endless things and structures around them, etc. And it's like, are you hungry? Yeah, right. Let's do something about that. Sorry. Are you tired? Yes. Right. Let's do something about that. I don't mean to be reductive with simplifying it like that, but to draw on that thing of like, does it make sense to do right now? Cool. Right. Do it. There's something very natural and very easy, and there's a lovely feeling with that.
Mm. Mm.
Awesome. Is there any? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I suppose when like there's a little bit about what he says about coming from love and everything, and about not having any expectations, and also about the children, like you're not telling them what to do. And I was thinking about, well, like how we are, like we don't have to have other children, like children, we can parent ourselves, we can show up with love for ourselves, and there doesn't have to be a to do. There's just like, I don't know all the answers. Let's just see. Like perhaps something, like a little bit like Sasha, and like doing something vastly different and absolutely loving every minute of it.
Mm.
Something made her do that against all of her thoughts, and it was brilliant.
Mm.
So I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. But yeah, the lack of judgments and just the lightheartedness of it all is nice. And it's like I started off being really regimented, and that worked until it didn't. And that's fine. So I'm ninjaing up now. I
Mm.
reckon I'm just up leveling my systems, but they've gone a bit esoteric.
Well, it's interesting that, isn't it? Because like what I'm hearing there is, again, it comes back to noticing. It's like, is the to-do list thing actually appropriate? Would that be really helpful, even if it's for a day? Even if it's one day of kind of regrouping things in and seeing it and going, oh right, okay, cool. You don't even have to tick it off. It's just like seeing it. It's like, okay, yeah, great, regrouped. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
Being
that's how
free
I've been
then.
doing things. I know what I need to do, and I just do it as sounds a bit shit. I won't say that. I didn't say that. And Guy did.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. It reminds me of Nick ran a webinar on free to versus free from, and free from being this kind of reactive freedom, like finally free from this thing,
That's it.
as
That's
opposed
exactly what it
to
feels like.
this
Yes.
kind of very open freedom, which is like I am free to not use to-do lists for 6 months, and I'm completely free to use them for another 6 months after that. It's like there's no reactivity to the freedom. It's a free to all of it. I'm free to flow. I'm free to ebb, etc.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Well done for saying that so succinctly after I've written
Well,
half.
it was a good webinar. I think the replay's probably up somewhere. I highly recommend it. Yeah, awesome. Is there any more, Karen?
No, no.
Wicked. All right. got about 20 minutes. Let's do an exercise. So if you've all got pen and paper, what we're going to look at, these last few pages of the book, one of the things that I've noticed it's pointing to a lot is the subjectivity to what we call that thing out there, this kind of reality. I particularly love the bit in the pages from this week around Frog's eyes are, there's a world that both human eyes and frog eyes are seeing, and yet the perception is different. They are completely specialized for different things. So again, it's all questioning that, like, right, what is really real here? That's the question that has come up for me over the last couple of weeks. And there is a really, really fun, cool exercise that also just helps as an ongoing practice and game to play. I've found it one of the most useful things, and my hope is that it'll be useful to you as well, whether you're new to it or revisiting. So that I suppose the whole purpose of this, again, it's about this ongoing noticing, and learning to get into the observation of an event, or to separate the observation of an event and our subjective experience of the event. And what looks true to me is that often, however well practiced we may be with this, our subjective experience sometimes falls into the description of a situation. So if we split this page down the middle, and on the left column we write event. Left column event, and then right column interpretation. And I'm going to give you an example that I've used before, and it was the example that came up for me when I first was introduced to this exercise. And I'll use it to demonstrate, and then we'll get into some examples here. So I think when this first came up, I described the event with so much of my subjective experience baked into the description of it. So I did a gig a couple of years ago. Everything went wrong. Pedal board broke. Multiple cables were not working as they should. Power supplies weren't working. The bass amp that the venue provided blew a speaker cone. All of this happened during sound check. And so I wasn't part of the sound check because I was trying to troubleshoot everything and get everything to work. We ran out of time. And so I'm now in a situation where I'm going to go into a gig, having not fixed anything, not knowing what's wrong. And as I was describing this event on this call, it's like I think I described it as like, I had a gig recently, which was, I showed up as so unprofessional and so it was so embarrassing and blah, blah, blah. And like, that was really baked into the description of this thing. By the end of this exercise, what was written in the event column, and the game here is to use as few words as possible, was, I think I wrote pedal board, technical issues on gig. And what ended up in the interpretation bit was all of that guff about really embarrassing, how can I call myself a professional when I show up like this, blah 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 blah, should know better, etc. And it was amazing to see, actually, once it's separated, like, okay, wow, this thing's amazing. And I used this distinction on this exact gig. I took myself out for a couple of minutes to calm down, played this kind of game, and saw this distinction of like, wow, literally all I'm dealing with is a tech issue. It's like, I'll see if they've got an amp I can plug in backstage, and they had a spare one. It's like, right, I can troubleshoot it. Figured out what the issues were, managed to do the gig, and it was in removing all the interpretation, all of the stuff that was completely subjective about what I had previously been experiencing as reality. Like, I am an unprofessional musician with shit equipment who's embarrassing himself on stage, all the way down to, right, got to figure out what's up with this thing, because something's up with it, but there's a solution. And it was so cool to have this kind of ace up my sleeve in that moment. So what I'd like you all to do, just like that example I've given there, think of and you can have some fun with it. Like, it could be, think of a time where something went severely wrong, or an embarrassing situation, or perhaps something along those lines that you would want to put through this event and interpretation thing. And what you're going to try to do is see or describe in as few words as possible what was the objective event, and what was your subjective experience of the event. What was the reality you created about that event? Does that make sense? Awesome. Another a good way to pick an example can often be, think of a time where there's been, or you noticed a reaction from yourself. So reactions can often be really fun to look at. Okay, we'll spend about another minute on that, and then I would love to hear what came up for all of you. All right. I would love to hear what you all noticed. Philip.
Uh, this was cool. Um, I wanted to ask at the start, like, am I going to do this right? But I ended up just going with the flow. For interpretation, I don't know. I think in the headspace I'm at now, I'm kind of frustrated with stuff. So, um, I done this interpretation where the first few things were just me saying like, I suck at this. I'm not. So like my first event was like, I'm stressed. I've got loads of things to do, and then the interpretation was like, I suck at this. I'm not keeping up. I've got these, crazy goals. I'm incapable of it. There's something wrong with me, and I just let myself write that. And I was like, okay. Or this is the dark night of the soul. This is the turning point. This is when I'm going through my greatest challenges, and I'm doing really, really well, and I'm making great progress. And then I did that for like my second thing, which is like my business is in chaos. And then what I noticed is I put like a few things about admin is overwhelming me. I can't do this. And then I was like, no, wait a minute. Actually, I've created this awesome business that I'm really proud of. And then I just allowed myself to like let this part that's positive just take up way more and more space. Like, this is great. I'm putting down really great roots. I'm doing. I'm making great progress. I'm proud of myself. Um, yeah.
Hmm. Is there something in seeing the initial interpretations written down in words? Like, how was your experience of that? Because it sounds to me, I might be wrong. It sounds to me like you wrote down some interpretations, you saw it, and went, no, hang on a minute, and kind of backed yourself in that moment, and went, whoa, 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 what's going on here? Like, maybe there's something else.
Maybe. I mean, I think I wrote stuff down that has been kind of wandering through my head, and I have got this overwhelmed feeling like I can't keep up with this, and there's something wrong with me, and maybe I'm just not cut out for this idea, or I should pivot and do something else. So I think putting it down into paper, like there's still a part of me that's kind of like maybe there is some truth in that. Um, so I'm kind of sitting with that thought that um, I don't know. Also, recently I've been thinking that maybe both things are true. Maybe you know I suck, but also I'm awesome. I suck at some things, but I'm awesome at other things.
Right, right, right. This can, again, just like what was it? Intention versus commitments. Like there are a lot of things that we can pull out of what we write down here. One of which being there might be some truth in some interpretation, or it can be fun to play with it as a hypothetical. Like one of the examples I put, I went to some Christmas drinks for a charity I do some facilitation with, and of the sort of the younger group that went out clubbing, and I chose not to. I chose to go home. One of them sort of walked past me and didn't say goodbye and just left. And there was a reaction I noticed there of like, I didn't think she liked me, and I think that's possibly proof. But my interpretation of that is like, right, there's the proof there is something wrong with me, and I'm always on the outside looking in. She seems to like everyone else. Yeah, I'm the outsider of the thing. Whatever proof I created there. But it's interesting to notice like a couple of things could be true there. Like she might not like me, and that doesn't mean something's wrong with me. So it can be right. So there's some it's still my interpretation that she doesn't like me. Like, okay, I don't know for certain. That might be true, but it's really interesting to notice what comes after that. What story continues to be created beyond that thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also, wouldn't it be that maybe she was busy and she didn't know, she was just rushing, she just didn't catch you?
That's exactly it, right?
Maybe you're not that important.
Exactly. This is all of the layers that are available to this.
Yeah.
I'm conscious of the time, so we'll go like relatively quick fire for these. Is there anyone else that wants to share? Karen.
I noticed that it was just ego. It was all about me. And just take that out, and then it gets back to the fact again. And then that's all we need to do. It's always all about you. My son said that to me once, and I went, oh, fuck, yeah, you're right. It is.
Well, this couldn't be more perfect. Because Philip, what you just said is like maybe you're not that important, and then what you've just said there, and I've just quickly underlined every single time I wrote the word me and I, and there's a few, like, and that's okay, right? But again, interesting to notice that the personal thinking. Awesome. Is there any more, Karen?
No. I don't need to go into the details because it was just all bullshit me. And then, oh, that's it.
Love it. Love it. Does anyone else want to maybe do our final share for the call? Any other things noticed there that anyone wants to draw out? I'm happy to share something I noticed. There was one message that I received earlier today from a potential client. We've had a couple of coaching calls, and the interpretation went through 6 different segments of interpretation, where it's just like what I call the pancake of thought. It's just like thought on top of thought on top of thought. It's just like terrible coach, this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, and proof seems to be baked into it again, where it's like it goes back to the frog eyes things. Like the frog's eyes are specialized to see in a certain way, and I think perhaps if there's a certain way that we have practiced thinking about ourselves for a while, we can almost be specialized to see proof in certain things and go, there it is, that one's, and then we have a thought based around it, and it's one of those sticky thoughts because we kind of identify with it and we go, right, proof, lovely. And again, another reason I love this exercise is it kind of holds a mirror up to the things that you're almost scanning for proof of. It's like, oh, okay, that yeah, I'm not really absorbed about this thing at all. Like, that's really cool to notice. So awesome. Guys, thank you. I'm conscious of time. I wanna respect the finish time. Final call next Monday. So there will be some reflection, and some what's next. And I encourage you over the next week. Perhaps you want to carve out some time. Perhaps if that doesn't work and it just occurs to you on the fly, whatever works for you over this next week, put a bit of thought into like any final useful ways that useful to you, like ways that you could use this group of people here during the final call. Is there will be some time around the reflection to also do our regular check-in and chat, etc. So yeah, something to think about. All right, lots of love. I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye.